So, welcome everybody. I hope this is broadcasting fine. I've had Safari crash a few times, and my slides might disappear, but I have backup plans. But regardless, we'll run with the technology. So, let me give you a very warm welcome to the Early Career Researcher Mentoring lecture. This talk is designed to cover the basics of mentoring. The Early Career Researcher is a chapter of the Astronomical Society of Australia, and one of the goals in establishing this chapter was to provide a resource to our early career researchers, our young astronomers, basically to help them with career development, with managing their time, their priorities, their goals, and in particular the long-term trajectory of where they want to ultimately end up. As scientists and as people. And so as part of that, we've put together a mentoring program. We hope it complements existing mentoring programs in Australia. And as I'll discuss in a little bit, you don't need to be part of a mentoring program to have a mentor. So the goal of this lecture here is to essentially give you an outline of the basics of mentoring and some practical ideas about how to get started. I know that many people who are watching this will have not been mentored before, are probably wondering what mentoring is actually about in practice, what it's meant to look like. Perhaps you've had a mentoring experience before, it hasn't been a positive one, or it's just been a bit benign. Your time is valuable, and so is the time of your mentor, so you don't want to waste either of those. This talk hopefully will give you some ideas about how to get more value out of the mentoring experience. Before we begin, I hope you can see on the sidebar here there is a Q&A section where you can post questions. This is not going to be a long talk. There's not a whole lot that we need to discuss in detail. I'm going to give you an outline, a sketch, some guidelines to follow to get you started, but ultimately you're responsible for this relationship, and I'm speaking in particular to the mentees here. It's your career and you're responsible for it, and you'll have to find your own way forward, the way that most effectively benefits you. That's the goal of mentoring. But given that, and if you've never done it before or haven't had a positive experience, I want to give you a framework here, some guidelines about how to make this work. Now, my slides have just disappeared again. So what I'm going to do is screen share, which means that I will disappear. And I'm sure many people won't be too upset about that. And now you should be seeing my first slide. I hope this will work very well. Just to highlight as well that if you look at the Google Plus page, the ECR chapters page, we've posted these slides there as well. So you can follow along yourself, download them later. We'll also put them up on our webpage. Okay. All right, so let's begin. We've defined the objective here as to provide our early career research members with the opportunity to discuss career-related topics with a senior figure who is not their current line manager. Okay, that's very important. While the specific objectives of this program will vary from person to person, the overall aim is to help the mentee achieve their long-term career goals. Okay, so to the mentees, you are the focus here. Okay, this is for you. This is not for the mentor, although a mentee-mentor relationship is often enriching for both parties. This is about your career development, your career trajectory, and the mentors are wanting to give their time to help you achieve those goals. Okay? So just a disclaimer again that the opinions in this talk, the framework I'm going to give, these are really my views on this. Now, I'm hoping that they will work for you and they will give you a start of how to move forward, but they're not necessarily the only ones that work, and your mentor might have a specific idea about how you should run the relationship as well, okay? Obviously, that supersedes anything that I say here. This is about something between you and your mentor. The goal here is to get you started, okay? And as I say there, ultimately, you have to decide how to run this relationship with your mentor. Okay, so let me start first by saying a very basic question, and you know, it's kind of important. Why do you want a mentor? So not generically as a population, the ECR population, yeah, it's great for early career researchers to have mentors, but why do you want one? Okay, now this first point is usually the main point, okay? We don't seek out a mentor, we don't seek out help or guidance when everything's going great. Money's flowing, papers are flowing, everything's happy, giving killer talks, right? That's not normally when we feel like we need something extra, right? It usually happens when you're frustrated, when you're stressed, you're bored, you're uninspired, okay? You feel a bit directionless even. They're usually the triggers that you need something. And often this is because your aspirations are bigger than your current ability. You start to recognize that you can't do this, right? You don't know how to do this. You're being thrown in the deep end. You don't really know where you're going. You see all these people around you who feel like they're really skilled, they're really able to do all the stuff, and you don't know, okay? And in particular, things can change faster than you can adapt. And this is quite important as well when you're moving through the career levels, the different career levels. You'll go from being a grad student to a postdoc, right? That's a dramatic change. You're suddenly burdened with lots more responsibilities. You suddenly have to take care of yourself. That safety net in many ways is gone. When you go from postdoc to a senior postdoc or a faculty, it changes again. And this is where you might want someone who's more senior than you to help guide you on those short-term decisions, challenges you're facing, how they can feed into the long-term, the mid and the long-term. Okay? So this is somewhat redundant for our program, but I want to set the tone here. Okay? Who do you ask? Okay? Who do you ask to be your mentor? Okay? The mentee has to choose the mentor. Okay? This is really important in my opinion. It is the mentee's career, not the mentor's career. Okay? It is the mentee's responsibility. They are the ones that will suffer. The mentor will come and go. Okay? The mentee is common denominator here. The mentee has to be happy with who their mentor is. Okay? So there's a lot of discussion. Gender, you know, should women have women mentors? Okay? I can imagine that this is something that for many women out there is going to be very important because there are unique challenges that women face that perhaps only or primarily you would expect another woman who's more senior would understand and would be able to share their experiences. And same with ethnicity, perhaps sexual orientation, whatever the unique challenges, or challenges is the wrong word, the unique things that you may face in furthering your career, and that you want guidance, you want inspiration, you want understanding, support on. You may only really be able to get those, or feel that you can really get those from someone who's similar to you, whether that be gender, ethnicity, or whatever. And so the next point, you know, so do you go with someone similar, or do you go with someone different? You know, some people might say, well, I already know what I would do in this case because it's me, right? What I want is a different opinion. I want someone who's not like me, that can give me a perspective, that can help, maybe challenge me, move me forward in a new way. Okay, so you have to figure this out yourself when you're deciding who your mentor should be. So as a guideline, as a bottom line, here is my definition of who you should ask. Right? You should pick someone who you admire. Okay, that's really, really important. Who you admire and who you trust and who you think can help you achieve your goals. All the rest at some level is secondary to that, because mentoring is not a picnic, it's not a free lunch. You have to work at it. It can be challenging. It has to be someone ultimately who you admire, who you would, in many ways, aspire to be like, and who you can trust. Okay? So that said, in establishing this program, we have paired people up. So we've already broken this rule, unfortunately. We've done that to establish a bigger program. Many people who are part of the program don't know who to trust. Maybe they're not even sure about whether mentoring is the right thing for them, or they're not sure what they'll get out of it or how to go into it. And so what we've tried to do is follow these guidelines, try to match as similarly as possible people that we think, two pairs of people that we think will work together. But it's very important. If you feel that the person you've been paired with is not really someone who fits this bill here, you rethink, right? Rethink the relationship. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I would like to have a different mentor, or here's a person that I would rather mentor me. There's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, the mentor will appreciate you being candid. They don't want to get into a relationship that ultimately is going to waste their time, that they're not going to get anything out of, and what they contribute is not going to have an effect. Right? So be upfront and decide, be happy with who your mentor is. Okay? All right. Number 3, you have to have goals. Okay? The point of getting a mentor is not to work out your goals. That's not the point of having a mentor. Right? You have to go into this relationship having thought deeply about what your short, your mid, and your long-term goals are, where you want to be, the direction you want to go. This is really, really important. And then you have to write them down. Don't put them in your head. You have to write them down onto paper, into a document somewhere. And then once you have those goals, sit down yourself and connect those dots. Okay? This is the plan. This is your goal, your ideas for how you can get from where you currently are to where you want to be, as defined by your short, mid, and long-term goals. Okay? Now, it's really important. It doesn't matter if this is crap. Part of the mentor-mentee relationship will be to work on these goals, to get advice on them, to find new directions, new ways to do things, to meet those challenges. So the goals are not irrelevant here, but the job of your mentor is not to determine your goals. Don't go there and the mentor says, so what are your goals? And say, well, I'm not sure. Well, let's sit down and talk about it. It's not my job to decide what your goals are. This is your career. Okay? So you should have some idea of your goals. If you don't know what your goals are, then step back. Don't waste the mentor's time coming in with ambiguous ideas about where you want to go. Step back. Get some advice, perhaps. That's not a mentoring relationship. Advice is not a mentoring relationship, although advice is included in a mentoring relationship. Step back. Think about where you are, where you want to be. Write them down. Doesn't matter if it's crap. Okay? But write them down and have some idea, some direction that you can take into the relationship with your mentor. Very, very important. Okay. Number 4, right? So in practice, how does this work? Okay, there's many ways, and you're going to have to work this out with your mentor in particular. But let me give you one if you don't have an idea at the moment or aren't sure. Okay, mentoring is periodic phone and email conversations, and they could be scheduled or they could not be. Things come up, right? And you might want to talk to your mentor about something, get some advice, or some shoulder to cry on, whatever, right? Periodic phone and email conversations about your professional growth and career, punctuated by regularly scheduled face-to-face meetings. Okay? And I'm going to recommend here quarterly. Your mentor, by definition, is going to be more senior than you, and by construction is probably going to be busier than you. Right? They have chosen to spend some of their time helping you, right? Being a mentor to you because they want for themselves that reward of mentoring, and also the reward of seeing you grow and achieve. Okay? So they are busy though. If you try and schedule them more often than that, it probably becomes a bit of a logistical nightmare. You don't want it to be a burden. If it's less frequent than that, then you don't really have an opportunity to build up a strong relationship. So I'm going to recommend as a starting point quarterly, so 4 face-to-face meetings a year. And if your mentor's on the other side of the country, you're going to have to be creative about this. conferences or whatever, or if they happen to be on your side of the country, you have to take those opportunities, okay? But face-to-face meetings are the backbone, and they're interspace with periodic phone and email conversations, okay? It's a relationship. You need to develop and nurture that relationship, and that happens through communication. Now, really important here is that to the mentees, you are responsible for running this. It is your job to run this. It is your job to organize the best time, to make, if you're going out to lunch, to make the appointment, the booking for lunch, your responsibility to send materials in advance, to make sure everybody's clear. If your mentor can't make a particular time because something's come up, to reschedule. You are responsible for running, okay? Again, it's your career, and the mentor is giving you their time to help you grow, okay? So respect their time by running it and running it efficiently. And this comes back to, who do you get to mentor you? I said that it should be someone you admire, right? Someone you look up to. If your mentor is someone you admire, someone you look up to, someone you aspire to be, then you should be itching for this responsibility to run such a relationship, to organize such meetings, okay? Take that responsibility. It's a serious thing. All right, the first meeting, okay? So you've made a time, you've established and sent some emails back and forward, it's all good, you're in the same location, you're gonna have a meeting, okay? What does this first meeting look like? It's really important, especially if your mentor is someone who you don't know that well. You might admire them, you might have followed them from a distance, you might have chatted to them, you might know them casually, but you may not know them in detail, right? So the first meeting, at least to establish this relationship, is very important. Okay? So what do I recommend? Okay, beforehand, write an agenda. Senior people love agendas. They love to know that their time, how their time is going to be spent, and when things will finish, right? There's nothing worse than open-ended meetings, okay? We're all busy. Senior people are busier. People who are more senior than them are even busier again, okay? So knowing why you're there, what exactly you're going to be doing is a wonderful thing for a senior person. So write an agenda, and then send the agenda and your CV and your career goals and plans, the one that you wrote, that I recommended you write in the previous bullet, send them in advance. Give your mentor enough time to look at them, to comment on them. Send the agenda. Say, look, I'm happy to run this however you want. However, you know, I've put out an agenda here. Feel free to change it in any way, shape you feel will be most effective for us. But regardless of that, if we need an agenda, here I've just sketched one out. Here's my CV. Here are my career goals and plans. Feel free to have a look. I'd like to discuss those on my agenda. I have items to discuss those. Hopefully this will help establish our relationship. So send them by email in advance so that your mentor knows, has all the information they need and has a clear idea of how the meeting at least will run initially. Okay? So you're in the meeting, you're sitting down, you have a cup of coffee in front of you, whatever. The first thing to discuss, I think, then is to discuss and agree on the scope and the boundaries of the relationship. It's kind of important. I hope you've got the sense so far that mentoring isn't, this person isn't just there to give you advice. This isn't just some guy down, some person down the end of the corridor. You can go and say, oh, could you just read my proposal for me? Or I'm not sure about which job to get. What do you think? Do you like this place, or do you like that place better? This is something more personal than that, which again comes back to picking a mentor that you admire and that you respect and you aspire to be like, or has qualities that you want to develop in yourself. So you need to understand the scope and the boundaries of the relationship. Mentoring can get a bit personal, okay? I get asked, is family, home issues and things like that, problems off the agenda? I would say definitely not. Definitely not. Are all personal things on the agenda? Well, definitely not as well. But there are home things, there are parts of your personal life that impact your work life. You are not your career. So it's very important that your mentor has a complete picture of you, or at least complete enough that they can give you effective, timely advice. You don't want to go to your mentor and ask about job offers, for example, and they'll give you some advice, or they'll recommend you talk to something like that. They might even try and set you up with someone to talk to, or call in a favor to help you out, something like that. And then they find out later that there was an extra bit of information. Maybe it was a little bit personal, but they didn't know about that. And that changed everything. And they wouldn't have given you that advice. That's just going to make them feel awful. Okay? So this is why I say this is a relationship. It has to be someone you admire and you trust, and you have to be able to share some things of your personal life with them, the things that are relevant for your career progression, for your career development, and so on. If they're going to give you effective advice, they will need to know certain things, so you have to be able to trust them. But right up front, it's very important to discuss these kinds of things. And again, the mentor will appreciate this. Don't think that it's a bit of a taboo topic. The mentor will really appreciate being upfront and candid. They'll take you as serious. And because they'll see you as very serious about this and really wanting it to work, you know, they'll give an equivalent level of seriousness to it. Okay, it's your job to drive this relationship, and that's one way you can drive it, by setting the tone and showing how serious you are about it, by setting boundaries up front. Okay, so the next thing I would recommend in the meeting is discuss personal background. So personal doesn't just mean private here; it means your CV, your career, not necessarily your career goals. That comes in a minute, but you know where you've come from, what your interests are, what you feel your strengths and weaknesses are, things about your family life. It's very important to know. You know, if you have 10 kids, you know that might impact some of the advice that your mentor gives you when you're complaining that you don't feel effective in getting new priorities done each week. That might be an important bit of information. Your mentor may not know that about you. Okay, if you have a hobby, I'm a runner, right? I run a lot. Okay. That would be a great thing to discuss with my mentor, my personal background, because I sometimes spend up to 10 hours a week running early in the morning, so I'm not normally in before 10. Maybe my mentor might have some advice for me if I'm worried that I'm not getting my priorities done in my job, right? So that's relevant. Okay? So these kinds of things, that's what I mean by personal background. Your mentor will want to get to know you, and not just your research, but you, if they're going to give you effective career advice. And it goes both ways. For the mentor, hopefully they will share some of the similar, stories about their background and who they are, so you can get to know them. And again, that's about building the trust, the background, the understanding with your mentor. Okay. Then next, I would recommend moving on to career goals and plans. So for this first meeting, it's really good to lay that out. Okay. They want to know from a career point of view, from a science point of view, where do you want to go? You may not have a clear picture. You may have put down a couple of possibilities when you sat down and wrote out your goals. I may not be sure that I want to stay in academia. I might go into data-intensive research, a job in industry, in Silicon Valley, or I might want to move into teaching or education, or become a social media guru, or whatever, right? So sit down and discuss those so your mentor has a clear idea of what your plans are for the next year, 3-4 years, and longer term, where you would like to end up. They might feel at that point that they're not the right person to mentor you, right? And again, that's important to know. Don't go a year into the relationship and sort of hope that it will come together. If your mentor isn't sure, right? Well, you want to go and work in Silicon Valley. I have no idea about that. Maybe they can recommend someone who does, who you may also know that perhaps you admire, or you can develop a relationship with, who can help you then. Okay? But again, this is the time to sort of establish these things and get a clear understanding of what the way forward will be. Okay? All right. And finally, it's good to conclude that first meeting by agreeing on what's next. And I recommended before that you have periodic phone and email conversations punctuated by regularly scheduled face-to-face meetings. Okay? and quarterly. That's my recommendation. But your mentor may have a different view. And this is the time to work that out. Work out who's responsible for organizing these. I'm saying you're responsible, but again, your mentor might be more relaxed or have a different view of mentoring. Whatever is effective for the relationship that you want to establish, that will let you help you achieve your goals. Okay, this is the place to do it. Okay, my last point, subsequent meetings. Okay, so how long does this relationship last? Okay, it's not mentoring for life. I can tell you that right now. It's not mentoring for life. Although it may be. Who knows? But you don't know. If you don't really know your mentor that well, if you've been paired up with someone who you've seen from a distance, you might have chatted with, but you're not really sure, then I would say, especially in that first meeting, let's see how it goes for a year. Let's set a year. And if it's not working after a year, if it's not effective for both of us, then let's call it a day. And you go and find another mentor. No one's going to be upset about that. Again, the mentor will appreciate you being frank and candid and serious enough about the relationship to say, if it's not working, let's just move on. We'll stay friends, we'll chat, it'll be awesome. But from a mentoring point of view, if it's not working, then we'll just move on. If it's someone you know, you might want to say, well, let's do this for 3 years. My postdoc goes for 3 years or whatever, 2 years or something. Let's set a 2-year timeline. And then at that point, we both have the option to call it quits. If at that point it's working great, logistically it's still practical, we're both in the same country, the meetings have been going well, so on, yeah, let's keep it going. Okay? But it's important to know that this is not mentoring for life, although it can be. In these subsequent meetings, I'm recommending that you focus on strategic and not tactical items. So if you're going to your mentor to ask something, some help, some advice, you want something from them, okay? Focus on the strategic aspect of it, not the tactical aspect. And by that I mean, don't just say, can you proofread my proposal? I'm not sure whether this reads very well or if it's clear enough. Okay? Go and say to them, this proposal is for funding to become a group leader at the MPIA, for example, in Heidelberg. It's a great opportunity for me to achieve goals 3, 4, and 5 that I've set out. It takes me away from Australia, so I'm not too happy about that. However, it's a fantastic stepping stone, as we've discussed. I really want to know whether these sections, you think these sections address not just my priorities and my goals, my scientific goals that I'm looking to ultimately grow into, maybe being a director of an institute or running a large group or something, or building an instrument, but also whether you feel that these align with what you understand about the place that I want to go to, MPIA or whatever, as an example. Okay, that's a great way to ask for strategic advice, which includes tactical advice, but it ties it back to your priorities, your goals, your career development, which is what the mentoring relationship is about. You can get anyone to proofread your proposal. Okay, so don't waste your mentor's time with mundane tasks like that, unless they've told you they don't care. If they don't care, then that's fine. But you have a unique opportunity here with a special person. Okay, your mentor is someone who you have a unique relationship with, so take advantage of that. And so try and keep things as strategic as possible. Okay. Then in subsequent meetings, it's always very important to evolve your plan. Okay, so people are not static, you are not static, your career is not static, your career will change, and this is where your mentor will hopefully have a very strong impact. If that trust has been built up, and if they understand clearly where you want to go, who you are, understanding the kind of person you are, your strengths and your weaknesses, they'll make lots of recommendations. They'll give you lots of feedback, and this will cause your plan to evolve. And finally here, it's really, really important to keep your mentor up to date. If you're giving an important talk and you've called up your mentor, just I guess for some sort of support or whatever, just a bit of a pep talk, you're nervous about it, you call up your mentor, you ask him, they give you some advice, they just give you some encouragement, whatever. Afterwards, contact them and let them know how it went. Okay, don't just fall back into the flow of your work life and then wait to that next quarterly meeting or whatever to fill them in. they've taken the time to provide input to help you out. Give them the respect of following up when they do that. Let them know what was effective, what wasn't effective, how you felt. Right? That's valuable information for them to effectively mentor you, but as well, they'll just appreciate it and they'll want to do this more for you in the future. Okay? So they're my 6 points. What I've tried to do is lay out a framework here. So this is a framework. This is advice only. If you're not sure about what mentoring is, about how to do it, right? How to start, what the expectations should be on you and your mentor, then these slides hopefully give you some idea of that. Okay. Now you're free to change these as much as you like, as much as is valuable to you and your mentor and your relationship and your professional career development. Okay. But go back and take these slides. If you do feel like that's a valuable contribution, and enact them, I guarantee if you do what I've put on these slides, your mentor will appreciate it. They'll appreciate the seriousness with which you're taking this relationship. And not only that, I think you'll get a lot out of it. You'll get more out of it. Much better than just sitting down saying, well, yeah, okay, let's talk. I don't really know what I'm doing. Yeah, I want to be an astronomer. I want to be a professor. Okay. Yeah, we all want to be professors, right? How do you want to, right? Have a plan, have some goals, establish the relationship in a clear and well-defined way and move forward with it. The mentor will really appreciate that. So I've listed a couple of links here. The first one is our the early career researcher mentoring webpage, and we'll update this with time. We'll put these slides on there. These slides really in many ways serve as an overview of what we see is a good start for mentoring. But as we go on, we'll put more resources, maybe some other cheat sheets and so on, and especially as we get feedback from you about how we can make this program more effective. And I've also put something, a link that I personally found very helpful called Manager Tools. And these are 2 executives who have about 10 years of podcasts now and a truckload of resources, mostly targeted at the business community, executives, VPs, stuff like that, about how to effectively manage people, careers, calendars, everything. And they have a section on mentoring. They also have a series called Career Tools, which is more aimed at the person aspiring to be a manager or a VP or an executive. So I advise you to go there. There's lots of great resources there, lots of great ideas. A lot of academics follow these guys. It's not just for the business world. Whatever inspires you and gets you thinking about how you can be more effective in your work and your personal life, these things are not separate, is a good thing. And I congratulate you on signing up for the mentoring program. It shows that you want to make a positive step. And I sincerely hope that it's effective for you. And any feedback that you can give us on the program and how we can make it more effective is also going to be valuable for us. So with that, I'm going to end the slides. We have the Q&A open, and I'm happy to take any questions that people might have and try to answer those. So if you have a question or some ideas or thoughts, please post them now. I've never done that before, so I'm not entirely sure how it will work. Hopefully it's there for you. I'll give you just a few minutes if you're typing the question. And while I do that, I'll just say that it doesn't end here. So the ANITA Google Plus, sorry, the ASA chapter, ECR chapter Google Plus page has a comment section. So I encourage you as well to post any questions there. And you can email any of the steering committee members with any thoughts or concerns. Sarah Martel and a number of us have actually organized, are the organizers of within the steering committee, are the organizers of the mentoring program. So feel free to contact us with any questions, concerns, ideas. As I said before, if you feel like you want to change your mentor, or you're not sure about something, again, this is a great place to come talk to us about it. Everything is discreet, of course, and we respect your privacy and your opinions and ideas and what you want out of this to the highest regard. So feel free to contact us with any questions. I don't see any questions here, so what I'm going to do is switch back to me for a second. And thank you again for tuning in. This broadcast will go up on YouTube, so it can be watched. So feel free to refer it to anyone who you think might get some value out of it as well. We'll also put the link onto the ECR chapter webpage. So with that, thank you for attending, and genuinely, I wish you all the best with your mentoring relationships, and I hope you get a lot out of it.